Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, no? Or, don't, it's aye. Okay, that passed. And we are going to have our city council updates to begin with.
Good evening, I'm Brian Mundell. I'm your city council liaison for this year. And as some of you know, I started my journey on public service to the city right on the planning commission. So serving as a liaison is always very enjoyable for me. It's like coming home, and I'm very happy to be here to serve for you. And as your liaison, I'm not just here just to give you an update. I'm here as a resource for you if you need it. If you have questions, ask me. If you have concerns, tell me about them. And I'm here to serve you and make sure I can do whatever I can to help the Planning Commission. So for our update, with the resignation of Aaron Bergs, the city entered into a contract with Landform that we have right here. Kendra Lindahl is taking the place for the city planning until we can fulfill a position for a new community development director, and we feel confident that we can move forward in that action. City Council chose to replace the EDA members with council members as the EDA members' terms expire. Myself, I don't agree with this. I think that we should have citizens on commissions for their input and their perspectives. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that council meeting and express that. I was out sick with a fever for 3 days and felt it wouldn't be prudent to expose that to other people. The city has hired a new city planner, Grace Gerard. She will be starting in March, and we're looking forward to bringing her up to speed and involving her with all of the city activities and the fun that goes with them. And the council is looking at a new ordinance for barndominiums. So more to come with that. Is there any questions or comments from anybody? If not, I thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you, Mr. Mundell.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the approval of minutes. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at them? And do you have any corrections?
I wasn't there.
And I was not there either. Do you guys have any corrections?
I didn't note anything. Other than, yeah, no, there was nothing.
Okay.
No, so mezzo business is the correct spelling.
What's that?
Mezzo business.
What about it?
That's the correct term.
Okay, so do you know what line that's on?
There's one on line 56.
156, okay. I don't even see a line 156.
I'm sorry, 56, 56.
56, okay. So are you asking if the
Is that correct terminology? Yeah.
You're asking if it is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Shall we?
It is the correct term. That's a state term with the new legislation.
Thank you.
So are you okay with it as it is then?
Yes, I'm okay with it.
Okay, sounds good. And do we have any motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all
Abstain.
that are abstaining, I think that motion passed enough. Okay, and then the next thing is we have a variance, and let me see. Okay, Ms. Lindahl, you're going to introduce this. Okay. Oh, thank you.
This is a variance request for a second driveway at 1670 229th Lane Northeast. The owner has applied for a second driveway on their property, and this property is in the future growth area of the city. It's zoned R1. And the city code allows only one curb cut. This is typical across the residential districts. Survey is required prior to any construction. We didn't have one with this application, so just scaling off the plans generally. The one submitted didn't have dimensions, but it appears that the current driveway is about 109 feet long from the curb. This is the exhibit submitted by the applicant. The variance request is to allow a second driveway here. This is the existing home. Again, just to be clear, none of this is to scale, so bear that in mind. The existing home is here with the existing driveway. The applicant would like to build a new shed in this location and have a new curb cut here near the cul-de-sac. There's a cul-de-sac at the end of 229th. Staff has looked at it. Given the distance from the house, it does appear very feasible to be able to tee off of this driveway. The green line is not the applicant's drawing, but just an example of within that 100-foot long driveway. Very easy to do that. Public Works has looked at it. There would be, if a new driveway was permitted, a new culvert would be required. Certainly this is something that needs to be looked at in accordance with the practical difficulty standards outlined in the ordinance. So the staff report lays those out. The first is that you need to find that all three prongs of that practical difficulties have been met. With a variance, the burden of proof is on the applicant to show that there's a hardship. It's not just that I would like to have this, that there's some physical reason I cannot comply with the code. And the way we test that is the three prongs. Is the request reasonable? Is it due to some unique circumstance on the property? There's no way I can comply with the code because of something. Grades are common, significant trees are common. Will it have an impact on the neighborhood character? And so they have to pass all three in order to approve the variance. And I've provided in the staff report findings of fact for both things you could find for approval or denial of this request. The options are, if you recommend denial, we've provided findings of fact based on the finding that the applicant has not met the three-prong test, or if you think that they do meet the three prongs, I've provided some findings. You may want to massage those. It was kind of a stretch for me to find findings for approval, so you might want to modify them, but I have provided them in the staff report. So those are your two options. This is not a public hearing for a variance. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicants are here tonight.
Okay, so then I'm not going to open a public hearing, or?
It's not a public hearing. You can certainly take public comment, but it is not a public hearing.
Okay. Sounds good. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't. Certainly happy to answer any questions about the staff report, though, if you had questions about the draft findings in there.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? So that is?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, why don't you come on up, please? And if you could just say your name and your, well, we have your address.
Yeah. My name is Christina Pagnac. It's my husband, Alan, that is on the actual application, so.
Okay. And Christine, is there anything that you want to say kind of to support your case for this?
To support my case, well, we have looked at the options of teeing off of our driveway. If you actually come and drive down the road and look at our driveway, it's not as feasible as on a piece of paper. There are lots of trees there that would need to be taken out, as well as my yard that's already there. It would just compromise our front yard. It would be all driveway to get to the shed.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is a dead-end road. It goes to a cul-de-sac. We are the last house on the right-hand side. We wouldn't be obscuring anybody's scenery or, I don't know, visuals with the shed or the driveway. We butt up to another person's property that has 40 acres. There's other driveways, and when they're not cut into the curb, people just drive on the grass on our road. I'd prefer not to do that. I would like to have a nice driveway, so again, to keep the aesthetics of the neighborhood. I know our neighbors are supportive of it. They've all said absolutely no big deal to us type of thing. Again, I would like to, I mean, yes, there is no need for the second drive, but it would actually be much better, again, to get things in and out of the shed would be obviously much better from the road opposed to coming off of our driveway. In all honesty, if we can't get the second driveway, we're just gonna scrap it because we would not put a second driveway off of our driveway. It just wouldn't make sense for us.
But would you scrap the whole building thing too?
Yes, yeah. It just wouldn't, it honestly wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense for us.
Mhm. Okay. Are the other commissioner members able to ask her questions right now, or?
Yes,
or not?
absolutely. The applicant is here and you can, as commissioners, ask questions.
Okay, do you guys have any questions?
No, I will say I read your application or suggestions that you want to do. And it said in there that you wanted 14-foot walls on the plan. And I know that doesn't meet the code, so you'll run up against that too.
I think that must have been, we know we can't do 14-foot walls.
Okay.
We'd have to do 12-foot
Yes,
walls
yeah.
and put in a scissor truss.
Yep.
We know
okay,
that. Yes,
perfect, yeah.
yes. That must have been,
Okay.
yes, but yes, we are aware of that.
So on the paperwork that I read.
Yes,
I
you
just
are
wanted to
correct.
make you aware of that.
Yes, yes, yep,
Okay,
yep. That's already worked in.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's all I had for questions.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, you were saying shed. This is a 30 by 60 pole barn?
Pole barn shed, I don't know what you want to call it, but yes, it is, I agree. It is not a garage, or being just a shed in the backyard or anything like that. It is definitely a shop, a shed,
Okay.
a pole barn.
Yeah, the last 30 by 60 I was in was on a farming establishment. I guess so. Is there going to be a lot of heavy equipment coming in and out of this shed?
No, absolutely not. The purpose for it is we have a fish house that we have, and so instead of, again, parking that in our driveway or parking that alongside our house, we could put it in the shop. So it would be places to park our extracurricular items that we have, and then obviously, of course, for storage. But no, we don't run any small businesses of any kind. We don't have any equipment. We don't, no, a lawnmower,
All right.
four-wheeler maybe.
Thank you.
And that was going to be my question too, was when you referred to it as a shop, I was wondering if you were planning on putting a business there someday?
No, we've got plenty to do. We don't need another second job of something else, so. no.
Okay. It was mentioned that a culvert was going to have to be put in for this. Are you aware if you're going to have to be paying for that, or is the
I
city?
was completely unaware of any of that. So
Okay.
I had spoken to the previous, must have been city planner, or, and he had advised, when I spoke with him, it sounded very promising. He didn't, of course, he didn't look into it in depth, but he just gave an overall, he's like, oh yeah, yep, let me look into it, that sort of thing. So I was unaware of that. So if that is something that needs to happen, of course, I would assume we would have to cover that cost. But yeah, I was unaware of that.
Okay.
So I've got two different perspectives about this, and the perspective, which I'm sure would be represented by Tanner were we here, is that the concern about setting a precedent. So that's the negative on that. The way I look at that is we look at these case by case. So it doesn't mean if we were to grant a variance for a driveway, the next person could do it. Because in my opinion, setting a precedent doesn't compel you to have to do it everywhere else if you're looking at it case by case. So on the positive, it's not, I mean, the main reason not to do that is because you're on a road that has traffic coming through it, and you don't want multiple exits and entrances when you have traffic to have to look out for. And that's not a case here at the end of the cul-de-sac on a street that does not get very much traffic, especially at the very end there.
Yeah, it's dead end, yeah. It goes to a house.
Right.
Yep.
So from that standpoint, I'm not concerned about an extra driveway as far as impacting negatively the neighborhood or the dangers of traffic there. It's the thing about the trees, I see that no matter what you do, a lot of trees are going to have to go down in either one way or the other because of having to put the shed there and the driveway. There would be probably fewer trees if you had to come off the existing driveway. But anyway, those are my considerations, and I haven't really resolved that all, but I lean toward property owner knowing what they need if it's a reasonable, to me it's a reasonable request, it's just doesn't necessarily meet all the standard criteria, but it seems like a reasonable reason to make an exception based on where it is in relation to the road and what kind of road it is.
Okay. I think unless you have anything else to say, you could just take a little rest and we'll discuss this a little bit
yes,
here if
yes.
you don't mind.
Open for any other questions if you guys have anything,
Okay.
but otherwise I will.
Thank you.
I have nothing else to add.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So these are hard because we've had, in the last year or so, we've had quite a few second driveways, and they go 50-50, doesn't it? Seems sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and I don't know.
I'm all for it. I think it's a total reasonable request. A, you go in front of their house, it looks like you got a service drive when you drive down the road. And B, you're putting more hard service, because it'll be longer cutting across the front to get to it than just finishing it to the road. And if you have a trailer, I want to see somebody back it up around the corner, back in the driveway, back down the service road, back into the,
I
you know,
never
it's
did.
just not reasonable. And so I think if we're going to allow a second buildings, which we do, we got to allow access. And if they pave it and it's a nice building, it's going to fit fine in the neighborhood.
But not in every single instance. But
Not in every single, but
Mhm.
I went past this one. I think it's not a non-issue.
Mhm. Okay.
And like the homeowner said, people will just drive across the lawn straight anyway because you're not going to back a trailer like that. And then you end up with a path and it looks worse than a pavement. Now, I don't think it should be 20 foot wide at the road to limit the runoff. You know, keep it 12 foot, 16 max. But it's reasonable. There's no question it's reasonable.
Okay. Brian?
I could see where the driveway to the curb would be convenient, definitely. I also think that a 109-foot driveway, I think that there's possibility in there for a solution to this. There's the aerial photo I have, there's a lot of trees, and I'm guessing a lot of those trees are gonna come down during this project. So I guess I don't see why that is any reason to go against this. Also, the precedent that you spoke to, Tanner, or I'm sorry, Glenn. Second driveways would do just that. They would set the precedent. I think exploring the solution off of the 109-foot driveway should be exhausted before just going with off the curb because it's convenient. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Well, going into this, you know, I really didn't find a lot of compelling reasons also to allow the second driveway. But I'm kind of seeing that we do have a little bit of flexibility to make a recommendation. I want everyone, you especially the homeowner, to understand that we make a recommendation to the city council, and then they may or may not listen to what we discussed, and then they make the final decision. So whatever we do is just a recommendation. So again, I'm like Glenn in thinking that it's nice for homeowners to do what they want to do with their property, as long as it's within reason. And it's, yes?
I just have a quick, so what if would it help if I gave, sorry. Again, just to show like what it actually looks like, to show you how much is like supposedly my front yard to put this driveway, would like a physical picture help? Would that just paint the picture better? Because there is not a lot of space to come off and make a driveway. There really isn't. I mean, my front, where I would have to come off of my driveway, we don't have a lot of yard there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if that is something that we could now still submit some more evidence or to support the driveway. And as far as the 109 feet, that's because we have to set it back so far with the line of our house. We don't want to have to set it back that far. We would love to be able to put it not so far back in the woods and lose all those trees, for sure. But we have to meet the line of the front of the house. We have to put it back behind the house. So, yes. So that, but yeah, just wondering if that is something that we could still add,
you know,
or.
I think that the pictures that we have are pretty sufficient for
Okay.
that. And I'm kind of thinking of going your way anyway, so
Okay.
unless there's, Glenn, what do you think?
I wasn't paying careful attention to I forgot about the setback having to match the front of the house. Sometimes we've granted variances to not have to do that, but it's usually because there are wells, septic systems, or other natural barriers that make it not feasible to do that. But again,
We didn't want to press our luck. We didn't want to ask for a variance for the driveway and then a variance to move it closer, so we thought we would go for the driveway.
it would be nice to not have to set it back so far.
We'd be happy to do that.
But yeah, we don't have that in front of us to consider, but that would save a lot of trees and a lot of asphalt.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it wouldn't negatively impact the neighborhood, I don't think. However, we can't act on that without a variance for that. So, but it might be something to consider if if the driveway were approved.
Okay, I do have one last question, Kendra. So with the culvert, who is paying for that?
The applicant.
The applicant. So we put it in, and then they get a bill, or?
I believe, I'll have to check with Nate, but I believe the applicant puts that in
Okay. So
per our
whoever-
city standards.
Yeah, whoever installs the driveway will put in the culvert.
That's right, I believe. I'll confirm that before the council meeting, though.
Okay.
I think my memo from the Public Works Director simply says they need to install a culvert if the council approves the variance.
Okay. Do you guys want to have any more discussion? Are there any motions yet?
I do have one thing.
Mhm.
I agree that the driveway the width should be minimized. I'm wondering if there's any reason not to, or to have it as toward the narrowest end of the spectrum rather than 20 feet.
We have no issue with that at all. Whatever would need to happen is fine.
You're more knowledgeable about roads and driveways than I am, so maybe you could recommend a.
Well, I just, like I say, just take square footage of hard surface, you're gonna have less going straight.
Right.
Makes sense, runoff.
But I'm thinking if we craft a motion, it should include.
Yeah. See that, I don't think that we can tell them their design right now. I think that's on, when they.
Not the design, but we can, because it's a variance, we can have certain requirements to be met
Okay.
for approval.
You can attach conditions to
Yeah.
mitigate the effect of the variance. You're absolutely right,
Oh, sure,
Commissioner.
okay. Well, I would make a motion to pass it with 12 foot wide up to the building.
So your motion is to approve.
Approve.
Or to recommend.
Approval
the
with,
city.
with a 12-foot width.
Okay, so Kendra's got that. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any more discussion?
Madam Chair, just to
Yes.
clarify, is that subject to the draft conditions in the staff report, the findings of fact
Yeah, with,
from the, yeah,
The
from the
culvert.
staff report, yeah,
yes.
with all of those, okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion passed. So, do you know when the next city council meeting is? 10th of March, and it'll be on their agenda? Okay, so then, on
This
March
is-
10th.
Oh, okay. Well, our schedule has it actually going to the second meeting in March, our planning schedule. Which would be the
The 24th? Okay, so it will be the 24th, a little bit more for you to wait, but that's when the final decision will be made.
Check back with me, I'll talk with the city administrator afterwards, but.
Yeah, you'll get a notice from the city.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the next thing on our agenda? We are going to have a public hearing from Petra and Jon Fager. Is it Fager or Fager? I just want, Fager, okay. Regarding an interim use permit.
And Madam Chair, Zeke Peters from my office reviewed this application and he'll be presenting tonight.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Zeke Peters with Landform, and I'll be presenting this interim use permit. And you have slides behind me. So we're going to be reviewing an interim use permit for sheep grazing at a property located at 20845 East Bethel Boulevard Northeast. Petra and Jon Fager, the applicants who are here right now. They applied for this interim use permit. They do not own the property, but they have the permission from the property owner. They have previously applied for a grazing IUP on their own property that came through late last year. The city's discretion in approving or denying an interim use permit is limited on whether or not it meets the standards. In the staff report, you'll find that they were requesting to graze 13 sheep on 6.6 acres of land. It's highlighted on this behind me. This is what the applicant provided to us. They plan on using 1 acre at a time with an electric fence type thing, which is allowed for grazing of animals in East Bethel with an interim use permit, and moving these sheep around. They would be allowed the 13 sheep per the code. And then on the next slide, Kendra. There are 10 standards for general interim use permits and conditional use permits that are laid out in the report. Staff feels that they have met all of these permits, as well as with their narrative where they talk about the requirements specific to grazing of animals, such as setbacks, manure storage systems if using, distance from wells, property lines, and other items, which staff also has reviewed and find that they do have. And finally, the difference between an interim use permit and a conditional use permit is interim use permits temporary most of the time, or they have some sort of termination point. The code doesn't lay out a specific termination point, so the council or commission can recommend when that termination will be. On previous IUP that the applicant had applied for on their property, council and commission had attached a temporary time limit of 1 year and coming back to review it for 3 years. Staff doesn't feel that's necessary, just because as part of the interim use permit requirements per code, if they violate any of the standards, it's revoked. So we don't feel there's a need to review it after 1 year with the applicant, because if they're not meeting the standards, we can revoke the IU permit, the interim use permit, without having to have a public meeting and an application.
I agree.
So we have the standards in there on which it will expire if the property is sold or transferred, if they're found to be out of compliance, or if they fail to start grazing activities 3 years after its final approval. So the recommendations are on there for approval or denial, and I'm here to answer any questions, as is the applicant. Oh, and one more thing. Thank you, Kendra. We did receive an additional public comment that was given to you previous to this meeting. A copy is available at this table, and it's been attached to the public record as well, as if the person was here reading it themselves.
Did you see this?
What do you have an additional?
And did you guys get a chance to read it?
Yes, I did.
Did you want it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Good.
Do you need a copy?
No, we were good. Yeah, everyone's got it. So yeah, so that's an additional record that was received after the packet was created and sent out. And I'm available for any questions that you might have, and we do want to open a public hearing for this item.
Yep.
When you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see.
So, and with that, we're going to open up the public hearing for this. So if anyone would like to speak, please come up. And first of all, we'd like to have people who are not the Fagers come up if they want to speak about it. And then we'll take down kind of the concerns, and then we'll ask the Fagers to respond to that. So first of all, is there anybody who wants to talk that is not a Fager about this issue? If not, then did you guys want to come up? Okay. And just, if you could please state your names. And that's fine that you're both at the microphone together, just kind of speak into the microphone best you can.
I'm Petra Fager.
I'm Jon Fager.
We got sheep following our last IUP at our own property, and we're enjoying it, and it's been, the animals themselves are enjoyable, but we're also enjoying restoring the farmland around us to more of a natural pasture, native setting. And we had an opportunity with the property owner, Jim, to do something similar on his property, and his property also was used for row cropping for many years, that section of his property. And so we're using sustainable rotational grazing method, and so the sheep are moved throughout the land, giving each section of the land rest, and then the sheep's manure, it drops in place, and it actually acts as fertilizer, and the sheep pawing up the ground actually will bring the property back to a more beautiful native state. So I think the letter that the neighbor sent concerned about barbed wire, we have no intention of using barbed wire. The net fencing that we're looking at using is what we've been using at our own property, and it's not a super high voltage, but it just creates a barrier to keep them in place. And so, I don't know if you.
Yeah, just one other thing I was going to add was, concern about smell. That's everybody's concern. We don't want to be smelling it either. But my experience, that typically occurs when you're dealing with a high density, lots of animals in a small area with a kind of a CAFO operation. It's a confined animal feeding operation, and that's not what we're doing. And just as the city ordinance, I think it's 2 sheep per acre. That's not a very high density. So I don't really have a concern about a smell of manure or anything like that.
The type of sheep that we're using are called Icelandics, and the city guidelines don't talk about like what size of animal within the animal, but an Icelandic is considered a middle-sized sheep. So theoretically, we could be bringing much larger 13 sheep out, but these guys will not have an undue impact on the land.
So how's your electric fence working now? Have any of the sheep escaped?
We have had an escape, but they really like grain, so we just get them back in. We had one troublemaker, and he met the butcher a couple weeks ago, so.
Poor thing. Yeah.
Circle of life.
Yeah, that's true. So basically, it's like a sheep tractor, right, with electric fence or not so much?
No, it's more like it's a temporary fence in that you're not doing like cement posts and like committing to one fence layout. How long are the rolls we've been using?
164 feet, so it's a step-in post every 10, 12 feet or so, and then you've got a charger that you use to electrify it.
Solar powered?
Yeah, solar power. We've been using solar power just because of the trying to run a power line out to it is not very feasible.
But it's white, it's a netting, and it just gives them a zap. It also is helping for, like, if there's coyotes or something, it deters predators or even like loose neighborhood dogs. But it's a low voltage. Like if I touch it, I'm like, oh, but it's not like I'm falling on the floor. rolling around. It's just a zip, little zap.
Is there an outside fence then, kind of around the property that you're gonna be keeping the sheep?
There's not an
Yeah.
additional perimeter fence, and that's not.
So if they're out, they're out.
If they're out, they're out, yeah.
And on your property that you have now, is there kind of a double barrier?
There's parts of our property that have it now. We're in the middle of a perimeter fence permit, but we haven't completed that fence. We weren't able to finish it before winter.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for the Fagers?
I have a question about this letter, because they're talking about the Fager's property is adjoining the writer's land, but this isn't on the Fager's property, it's on a property that they are leasing. So was that a mistake on her part in the, what she wrote, or, I mean, is she a neighbor of where you live, or?
I'm assuming she just didn't read carefully and thought we were the owners to the north of her.
Okay. Gentlemen?
And so, to understand, you have the sheep at your house now, at your own property,
Yes,
but you're not gonna keep them there at all?
we'll have some of them there.
Oh, so you're gonna have some at both
Yeah,
sites?
it's-
So right now we have the 7 that we were given permission for, and 6 of those are used. So we'll have some lambs this spring, and having additional land will give us flexibility to keep some of them, butcher some of them, grow some of them out.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, if I could just say one thing that, you know, as a farmer myself, I do understand how beneficial it will be for that land that has been row cropped for so many years with chemicals and things to have this manure into it. It really does build back the soil a lot. So, I mean, whether we approve it or not, I think it's a good thing that you're doing to the soil that way. Okay. So I think we're going to close the public hearing then. And gentlemen, do you have anything that you want to discuss?
No.
I don't think so. I guess, has the city received any complaints on the property they have now?
I am
do
not aware of
think
any
that they have.
complaints.
Thanks.
I am a little bit concerned about the sheep getting out. 'Cause, you know, once one goes, they're all gonna go out onto the road or whatever.
So I probably will have to abstain because I have a positive relationship with the Fagers. And also the sheep ended up on our property, which was not a problem at all. But
Did you get the first pork chop?
no, but I just, they're very responsible people, they're very engaged and trying to do the best with what they're given. And I really think they're good people to have as neighbors, and I support what they're doing, but I probably have to abstain just for that reason.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you should mention that because I am going to be abstaining from another one later. I know the Fagers also, they come into the farm stand from time to time, but so I don't know them well enough that I feel that I need to abstain on this one. Okay. So do we have any motion on this?
Yeah, based on the applicant's submission, the contents of this report, public testimony, and other evidence available to the planning commission, I think the planning commission should recommend approval of this request for an IUP for grazing of 13 sheep goats on the property located at 20845 East Bethel Boulevard Northeast to the city council.
That was a great motion. And is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay, and since we only have 3 voting people, is this going to be considered valid?
Madam Chair, I don't know that an abstention is necessary unless Mr. Terry personally benefits.
Oh, no, I don't. So, yeah, I'd be happy to vote if I
Everybody
can.
knows kind of everybody and has.
Yeah, we do.
relationships. It's not, it usually boils down to a personal stake in the matter
Okay,
where you want to abstain.
Thank you for clarifying that.
so then we have 4 people, so we can have whatever vote, but,
Yeah, I would have
If you're okay.
seconded the motion.
okay. Okay, did you second it though? already?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, any more discussion? If not, all
I
in
would
favor?
just ask that
Yes.
the city, I know they're short-staffed, but I would hope they would keep an eye on complaints due to the neighbor's concern.
Mhm.
You know, that's all I would ask.
Yeah, I would think that if there were any complaints, we
We'd
would
have
have
step
heard about
forward.
it, and Fagers would have heard about it.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? So that motion passes, and we will recommend the approval to the city council. And that one will go on the 24th, you think, Kendra?
Yes, unless you hear differently. It's going on the 24th, as we said in the letter we sent previously.
All right. Okay, the next agenda item, we're going to have a public hearing for a preliminary plat. And Kendra, are you
That's
taking
right,
this one?
Madam Chair, yes. This is a preliminary plat for Blanco de Cola Pradera. This is a 3-lot subdivision. The property is zoned rural residential, guided rural residential and zoned rural residential. It is 2 different parcels as shown on the image there. They will be combined through this plat and then split into these 3 long parcels along the county road. There's a large wetland in the back, which has been delineated. Generally, the concept plan shows 3 building pad sites with some long driveways. This is a challenging lot in the middle, needs to scoot the driveway around that wetland. It's on my next slide. Staff has reviewed for compliance with the preliminary plat. With preliminary plats, if it meets the standards in the zoning ordinance, or in the subdivision ordinance, the city has little discretion. The city engineer has reviewed, and in your staff report or in your packet is a number of comments with conditions of approval that would need to be met. The Anoka County Transportation Department has also reviewed and provided comments. They don't have any concerns about the proposed accesses. They find those to be an acceptable location. Additional right-of-way will be required to be dedicated for the county road, an additional 10 feet of right-of-way on the north side of the road. Those conditions would need to be met prior to submittal of the final plat. So if the preliminary plat moves through council approval, then the next step is the applicant would come back for final plat approval. That goes to the council only. Whoops, wrong direction. In this case, as outlined in the staff report, we've prepared a draft resolution for approval. We do believe that the conditions of preliminary plat have been met for this subdivision. So we do recommend approval, but the commission could recommend denial if you found that there were conditions of plat approval that have not been met. You would need to identify what conditions have not been met. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the plat application, Madam Mayor. Chair. I just promoted you there.
Wow, thanks. All right, we're going to open the public hearing for this. So if anyone, first of all, that would like to speak who is not the applicant, come up, please. And if not, if the applicant is here, please come up too. And just let us know your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Matt Chacich. Address 6881 147th Avenue Northwest, Ramsey.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And what would you like to tell us?
So I bought this property a year ago. The reason I'm splitting it is kind of just to break down the cost of buying the land initially to build our future home there. So that's going to help save costs on the initial purchase of the land. And we have some friends that want to build also. We're not trying to build a big development with city roads or anything. So we just decided to split it 3 ways, meets ordinance for road right of way and everything, the width of the property, each property to the county road. We've talked to, since it's on a county road, we talked to them about the bypass lane. So we got that figured out where the driveways should be on each property and everything, so.
I found it really interesting how you were able to split that and make it work.
Yeah.
On paper, at least.
Yeah, that land's been for sale for quite a while too, and I kind of just ran into it last year when I sold my other place, so.
Mhm.
Hoping to do something with it.
Okay. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Matt?
I don't.
Brian?
Hoping to do something with it. You mentioned building homes and starting a house there. Is that what you mean when you say?
Yeah, so we'll
Building
be
stuff.
building our future home there. Yep,
Okay.
that's our plan. And then same with our friends that want to purchase, once it's split, they would purchase a lot and then build their house on. So keep it rural residential, build their houses.
Thank you.
Yep,
Glenn?
Nice lots.
thank you. And it's called Whitetail Prairie, by the way.
Okay.
It's Spanish, just unique.
I was wondering, I mean, I didn't have a chance to look it up, but
Yeah.
that's what it is, whitetail.
Yep,
I mean, I
Whitetail
knew the
Prairie.
culprit was tail. Okay.
A lot of whitetails there too.
You keep them where you are. All right. Okay. If there's no other questions, I think we'll just have a discussion here. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Kendra, was there any concerns with this or with the division of the?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said in the packet, there are some conditions, some revisions that need to be made to address city and county engineer conditions. But no, it does comply with the code.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be more straightforward than I thought it was going to be
Yes.
actually going into it.
Yeah, we don't get that many of those anymore, do we? But no, it does comply, and so we do recommend approval, subject to the findings and conditions in the draft resolution.
Okay, any discussion?
I don't think it's needed.
It's easy, you say?
Well, like
Yeah.
Kendra said, we don't see a lot of this. This is done exactly as it should. I think we just need to move it to the next stage.
Okay. Corey or Glenn?
No comments to add.
Okay.
Yes, I'll make a motion
Okay.
to
Oh,
appro-
let's close the public hearing first.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
I
so
thought you
sorry, I
did.
thought I did, but we'll close the public hearing, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the lot split with the staff recommendations and other engineering requests met.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
great. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion carries. All right. And we'll give you a little chance to catch up, if you're okay.
Yes. I'm going to have Zeke present this next one, which is a public hearing for a rezoning.
Good evening again, Commission. We have a request for a zoning map amendment to rezone the property located at 2206 Durant Street Northeast from currently rural residential to A agriculture. The request comes from the property owner, Laurie Slater, and the applicant is requesting that their property be zoned back to agriculture. It is currently zoned as rural residential and guided as rural residential. If you go to the previous slide, as you can see, it's in the yellow there. It is, most of the properties around it are also rural residential, but there is agriculturally zoned properties that border it and go up north from there. The city has a relatively high level of discretion when it comes to approving and rezoning a rezoning application. It must be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the standards for it. Those have been laid out in here, talking about changing it from rural residential to agriculture. Ultimately, they have very similar design standards. They're both for land that's usually outside of a urban service boundary, which they both are here, and for a density of 1 unit per 10 acres on this parcel. While there aren't many differences between the two zones, one of the biggest differences that the applicant did bring up in a phone call with staff was the intent to not expand the use on the property, but to build additional accessory structures. In the agricultural zone, per state statute, property owners are allowed to build more and larger than what may be allowed normally agricultural buildings, and it's in the quotations there because they need to be for agricultural uses. Those are all defined by state statute, what that means, what they can store in there. They can't just store unrelated things or have workshops, other things. It needs to be an agricultural purpose. But that's all determined at the time of the actual permit for the building. That's just something that can be considered when thinking about this rezone request of zoned rural residential, do we zone it back or not to this agricultural zone? The applicant is present right there. Yep, the applicant is present in the room right now. But other than what's laid out in the report, we have a draft ordinance approving the rezone, as these are an ordinance because you're amending the zoning map. And I'm available for any additional questions that you might have related to this application. And we will need to open a public hearing for this one as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So before we start the public hearing, I do just want to talk about my reasoning that I was thinking of recusing myself from this because, as you all know, we have a farm stand, and Troy Slater and Laurie, they sell their honey at our farm stand. So I feel I have somewhat of a conflict of interest, but after listening to Matt, I mean, whether this property is zoned agricultural or residential really doesn't matter much to me. So I don't think it's a big enough thing that I need to recuse myself on this. Okay, so with that, we'll open the public hearing. And first of all, anybody who would like to talk about the zoning that is not Troy or Laurie Slater, if you could come up, please. We'll talk about your concerns and then we'll answer them. And if there's no one, then Troy or Laurie, could you come on up? All right. Hey.
I state my name,
Yes, please.
Troy Slater,
And your address, for the record.
22206 Durant Street.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to tell the commission about the reasons that you're wanting to rezone this?
We're planning on putting up some new buildings, and one is quite large right now. It'll be right around 8,000 square feet. I am zoned by the county agricultural homestead. Just the city has me zoned residential. So we're not changing anything with the county or the state. All we're doing here is changing it with the city so I can put up agricultural buildings. Now, which I don't see any problems with that here, since farming is basically all of my income right now. So, is there any questions?
Okay. So you guys have any?
No,
No?
but in general, I just would say that whenever something gets changed to agricultural in the city, it seems like a win for the city, from my perspective.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you intend to use the buildings as agricultural like the
Yes. yeah.
ordinance says, so.
Yes,
yeah.
that's exactly what
Yeah.
it'll be, because the other thing is too, is the loan situation on this building is gonna go through the Farm Service Agency. And I haven't approached them yet, but dual zoning might not be a good deal when I approach them on it.
How many acres is the site?
My site?
Yeah.
It's just a shy under 29. It used to be a little bit under 31 until everything got resurveyed. And then the taxes went up after they resurveyed it, so I didn't have to pay taxes on the ditches. Well, I just raised the taxes after they resurveyed. Know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, did you have anything?
No.
Okay, all right. I don't either. I'm gonna have some questions for Matt and Kendra. So I think we're good. We'll just close the public hearing then, and we'll have a little discussion. And I do have a question, maybe Matt will know or Kendra will know about, so how easy is it really to change the zoning? Because, I was told, we were in a very similar position when we started our little odyssey about 12 years ago. And I was told it was almost impossible to do that, to have what was called, I think it was a text amendment to zoning, and that, even if the city council approves it, that it's going to have to go to the Met Council, and then it was difficult for the Met Council to do it. So I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that.
So the Met Council doesn't review zoning map amendments or zoning text amendments, but they do review the land use plan that's in the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so this property is not proposing to change the land use designation, which is rural residential.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't put the land use map in the slideshow. The city has discretion in the zoning map amendment. So I wouldn't worry about the Met Council or anybody else for this. I do think that you do have a high level of discretion in reviewing map amendments. We said that in the staff report. Comp plan amendments, you have an even higher level of discretion. So I don't know your particular circumstance. And then text amendments, we really need to be careful about because it affects everyone. In this case, what we're really doing is expanding this ag zone that's behind him to include him. So I think if this was not ag, it would be a different recommendation from staff, but really this is just expanding this agricultural zone that's already there. Does that make sense?
It does, actually. Okay, that was just a little technicality that I just wanted to make sure that we didn't kind of go through the whole processes and then all of a sudden there was a big bam at the end.
Yeah, no, good question.
Okay. Any discussion?
No, I like how Kendra put it. It looks like we're just expanding an agricultural zone. If it was all by itself, a different story, but this is, it makes sense. I think so.
And we did get a letter or email, whatever, of support from Naomi Benjamin. That was nice to see.
Yep.
If
Guys?
it looks like a farm and walks like a farm,
It is a farm. Now, if they could have said that 12 years ago. All right. Nothing?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion based on the applicant's submission, the contents of this report, public testimony, and other evidence available to the Planning Commission, that we recommend approval of the request to rezone the property located at 22206 Durant Street Northeast from RR Rural Residential to A Agricultural.
Fabulous motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, so that motion passes. Okay, we've come to the end of our public hearings and everything. Is there anything that you want to talk with us about, or there's, okay. I understand that we just had a resignation from the Planning Commission. So do you know where we are at with people, with applications, first of all?
Madam Chair and Commission members, Matt Look, City Administrator. We had a resignation come in yesterday evening for the council meeting for Diana Sanger. She, due to personal reasons, wasn't able to commit any longer on the commission. And so we brought that forward in kind of a hurried motion because we want to make sure to get the applications out there. And if you folks know people that are interested in serving on this, be sure to reach out to them and recruit them. And then once those people come in, the next planning meeting, you'll have the opportunity to interview them, make your recommendations. That'll then go to council, and that'll be the fastest route to try and get people onboarded so you can operate with a full commission.
Okay.
it's a little dicey when you're sitting at 4 and the quorum's
is.
4, right? And
Definitely.
you're kind of going through the flu season, so it's one of those type of things, so.
Yeah, so do we have some applications from?
We have some interest. I'm not
neighbors?
sure if we have formal applications as of yet. We have some interest though, so.
And so where are we notifying the public of those openings?
They'll be notified on the website, I think might be on the reader board as well, and then general, people reaching out. So,
Exactly.
I know that there's some interest from people who have applied in the past, and there's a new individual, I think they ran for council that might be interested as well, so. If they submit, we can consider them, but until we get that formal application, it's hearsay.
Okay. And the other thing is my term as chairperson is kind of up. But I'm wondering if we should just continue for just a little bit till we get fully staffed, or if you guys want to start talking about a chairperson.
I think we should continue as we are right now.
Well, at least for a time or two. Are you okay with that?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Okay.
Any further questions?
No, thank you
Okay, thank you.
very much. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? We are adjourning. Okay, thank you.